Welcome back, just in time for Metropole Business Center. Now we are looking at Spotify and its localization strategy in the market. And joining us is Ivan Amkasa, who is a tech enthusiast, and CEO Sophie. But Ivan, let's dissect further the localization strategy for Spotify. Where we are, it has been methodically localizing its content and game plan for each country they enter. Take us through Spotify's localization strategy and how they are going to use it in the near future.
Okay, so a little bit of background. Before this year, Spotify wasn't available in Africa, in a lot of African countries, especially in Kenya. So what we used to do is log in via VPN. So a VPN that tunnels us to somewhere in Canada or the USA, so we use the service there. And what you'd see is you'd get ads that are all based in the specific geographic region that you're in. I used to get ads in French because or my entire interface changes into French because I'd be paying into Spotify from a different country. And so that soon is about to change. And the convention is the first revenue model is ads. You go on Spotify, if you're using the freemium version, you get to hear ads in between, just passing in between the music you're hearing. So that's going to change. There's already been stories of people starting to hear localized ads. The second is the pricing model will change for this specific ecosystems rather than a global pricing system for across the world. There's even introduced something called they've introduced something called hi-fi. So if you are interested in better music quality from them, there's a payment package for that. But then lastly is for creators, local musicians, local podcast creators, onboarding them onto the platform as core Spotify creators. That should be the last angle that they'll be trying to play.
You've mentioned VPN portal, and often we used to have, blocked videos. You cannot download this video or it's not available in your country. Yes. Now, how then will Spotify fill in this gap, and what does that mean for its market and that of the countries it's available in?
So what that's mostly a YouTube thing. So VPN changes mask shape. Your local IP, like every single thing connection to in the internet has an IP address, so that servers know where to send back information. That is associated by geographic location, and some people are using that to buy content from geolocalized content. Geolocalized content. So that can happen in two ways, where some content created in Spotify by Spotify creators might be geofenced to Kenyan only. So if Kenyan musician, Kenyan musician, Kenyan podcast host, that can be localized there. But then it's the most active application is advertising and targeting and targeted advertising. So the music, the ads you hear in between the music or in between your playlist will be localized to, and it's broader than just localizing it to just Kenya. You can zone it down to Nairobi or a specific neighborhood in Nairobi according to the advertisers needs. So that if there are Spotify creators around the world who don't want to localize the content to the specific geolocation, that can still happen even at this point where Spotify is local in Kenya, because it lets creators do that. Now we have Kenya or Africa, the 40 African countries and Middle Eastern countries as a geolocation. You may be seeing more and more of that, and that's exclusively on the creators end. If they want to release content and they want it to be geofenced a specific region, it's up to them. What Spotify will be restricting will be ads. You do not want somebody in the USA does not want to hear a Tusker Kenya ad unless they're expanding there. So that's just an added perk of the insights Spotify gets from its users and how it targets advertisers.
Great. So you have mentioned advertising and content curators, but let's talk about the video streaming market. How big is Kenya's video streaming market?
That's interesting. So we have local players trying to edge that space,
yes.
But the market isn't segmented country-wise. It's
Yeah.
how big of a global audience you can get and how much you can grow it. So for local and players in the field, I don't see much happening to them unless they think about scale and repeat. And that's what Netflix and that's what Showmax are working at. They're not only just targeting Kenya, they're targeting a broad uh, uh, a broad spectrum of users so that they can make money at speed
Yes.
and the scale. What are the, and this the angle is you're looking at the demographics in such as not the countries they're from, is you're looking at them to the parameters of what other content they watch. So that's how recommendation engines build. So if I saw
Yeah.
Emily in Paris, they'll keep recommending to me shows like Emily in Paris. Kenyans who use frequent users of Kenyan users of Netflix hit the top trending list in Kenya in Kenya because it doesn't suit their personal preference. They want to see content like the regardless of where it's created. But then what I see is big for local for guys in the local space is filmmakers.
Yeah.
So if you're making film, you now have a distribution strategy
Yeah.
that targets billions of people across the world who like to watch something like watch things that you've something close to what you've created, and not regardless of who's creating it or which geographic location they're creating it from.
Great. Now, very quickly as we wrap up this conversation, Spotify comes at a time when there is the 1.5% digital service tax. And so let's talk about the timeliness of Spotify amid these digital service tax.
Yeah.
The pros and the cons. Yes, Ivan.
Okay, so it's an interesting thing. So I think, yeah, they'll have to set up a local office to negotiate around that, the digital service. Something that I was opposed to from last year.
Yeah.
Because as much as the communications board believe they can track this data, they cannot unless this companies give them the data that you're making X amount of. So yeah, what I'm saying right now is because of how big they are, they'll negotiate with regulators on how to effect this service. If they're trying, they cannot. I'm not saying an angle where they try to extract this tax from content creators. So if I'm a musician, I have my music up on Spotify, I add X amount per month. I have no idea how they can keep track of that unless they're surveilling like Hawk area does, or they have the agents surveilling guys out there that are like, oh, we know you're not tax compliant with the tax, but I'm not sure they have the actual they have to first get this data from content creators and also get this tax from Spotify itself.
Okay, so I totally agree. Very interesting times for content curators in the market and advertisers as well. Thank you so much, Ivan. Okay, that's it. We take a now very short commercial break, but stay tuned because coming up, security as an accelerator for digital transformation. Yes.